Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Season A, the platform where we speak truth to power. Today's broadcast is had to we've had to do a broadcast today to look at what this man said about the how should we put it the state of the nation thus far under President Tinubu. What is your take on it? How do you view it? I'm being impartial about this. I'm not going to make any judgment one way or the other. I think it's very much important that we, the people, collectively begin to really assess our own governance. And judging by what this historian said, something Gudaje, I think his name is, judging by his assessments, it's interesting. Um, of course, one will say that it's a short time. It's only been a short time that this government has been in place, and there is a lot of reason to actually agree with that assessment. Because it has been indeed just a short time that President Tinubu has only been elected. We're talking June, so a few months. We're in October now, so common 5 6 months, and that so yeah, but let us hear the people's views, and of course your own views do matter. Of course, you're watching Season Ewa, the platform where we speak truth to power. As ever, if you haven't subscribed to Season Ewa on YouTube, we'd like you to do so. How do you do that? Go ahead, subscribe to Season Ewa, hit notification button, and of course give us a thumbs up. We are going to cover this broadcast from this historian, and I think he's been consistent in his assessment. He gave a very very no holds barred account of the Buhari administration, and I think he's doing the same thing now with the Tinubu administration. Even though it was part of the system, let us hear what he has to say. He's been interviewed here on channels by Sheung Okibaloye. Let's have a listen.
Daily basis now we hear one appointment or the other, but the big question is, are those round pegs in round holes? How would you, as a citizen, assess some of these appointments? But let's get talking. I have tonight an elder statesman, eminent in every sense of the word, a former member of the National Assembly, and is a scholar, Dr. Usman Gudaje. He joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much, Dr. Gudaje, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. They said that a former member of the National Assembly and is a scholar, Dr. Usman Gudaje. He joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much, Dr. Gudaje, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Bugaje.
Thank you so much indeed.
Let's have a listen.
They said there is always going to be an end to all litigation. The Supreme Court is the final court all in the land. Now,
Indeed.
Atiku Abubakar has gone to court. He's gone to Chicago, now to court. What are your views about on the legal tussle that we have seen on our elections, especially the presidential election, and especially the kind of conversations on issue of certificate, whether or not your identity and things like that have been raised. And those in the APC that had also pointed at Atiku Abubakar to say, you had Sadiki in your certificate, you also have a case to answer. These are some of the conversation, and we've taken it upon ourselves that anyone who is coming from any office that is coming into our studio, we will ask them to let us know what their academic qualifications are. But what are your views about the conversation that has led to court in Nigeria today?
Well, let me say that in going to court, this is in keeping with democratic practice. Whenever there is an election and a party feels that they are not satisfied with the rulings of a court, they have an opportunity to go on appeal and to present their case at a higher court so that they can take practice. Whenever there is an election and a party feels that they are not satisfied with the rulings of a court, they have an opportunity to go on appeal and to present their case at a higher court so that they can be able to get justice. So for me, I don't think it's a matter to discuss. Going to court is a normal process, as the Constitution and the laws of the land have allowed that, and it is in order. Now, the issue of certificates has a very important significance. I don't know how much we are ready to look at this issue, because a lot of the discussions I have listened to or I've read about tend to be very superficial. Let me say three things very quickly. One, the fact that we are arguing about certificates speaks to the quality of the people we have, or lack of it, as it were, in politics. We should be able at this level to have people whose records are so very straight that you do not need to get engaged in this. There are bigger issues that should engage this country. I've tried always to make this point, that this country already has 20 million children out of formal school system. God knows the number of people that have finished school and they cannot find jobs. We have a country of 220 million people today, but in another just 7 years down the line, we're going to grow up to 300 million. In 2050, which is not too far away, we have young people. In 25 years or thereabouts, we expect this country to be well over 400 million in population, which will make it the third country after India and China. What I expect politicians to be discussing, how do you provide the infrastructure for this population? How do you provide food? How do you provide education, healthcare, jobs? Because that is what is going to make the country great. That's what's going to make the country stable. That's what's going to make the country peaceful. If you can't, you are going to go into the kind of conflict that we are beginning to see, or that we have seen for the last 1 decade or so. So the point is, it's very elementary that our politicians are, or the kind of people that we have in politics that eventually, get into positions of power, are people whose qualifications are doubted. Now that speaks a lot of volumes about the fact that of the quality of leadership we're going to get. The second point is that when it comes to, if you like, the political culture that we run has somehow accepted these things as norm. Because I would expect that the party itself should have done sufficient screening in its candidate before they even get to the point of being contesting for election.
Oh, one will also imagine that these names are submitted to INEC. Does INEC do a check?
Okay.
Does the party
I'm coming to INEC
in the first place?
I'm coming to INEC, but before they even go to INEC, they come through a political party. And a political party should have values. If they have values of integrity, then that name could not have come through.
Political parties screen their candidates. So you wonder what exactly did they do when
we do that. I was secretary of a political party, as you might remember. And we have to go through that for every election. And so it means that is the failure of the party. And then we come to INEC, which is even independent. Even if the party decides to be selfish, if that's the word to use, at least the INEC being an independent, I emphasize the independence there. They should be able to carry out a due diligence and confirm, check and recheck. And so you can see the failure of the institution at the party level, the failure of the institution at INEC level, and this speaks to our political culture. And I'm saddened that we have a political culture that literally allows this rubbish to come through. The third and important point.
Just remember, before you go to the third point. So if we have a political culture that is dented and is hogwash, so you're not surprised that we are getting the kind of leadership that we get, not only at the presidential level, but also across the state and the local government.
Yes. Now, the other point I want to make, we're in the 21st century.
What are your thoughts? Let's hear your comments as you're watching.
It's 21st century is a very competitive century. And if we are going to survive and thrive as a nation, We have to compete. And the competitive age that you get, the most important is knowledge. Now, if you have a system that does not prioritize knowledge, does not prioritize integrity, how can you compete? So how can we survive as a nation? How can we thrive as a nation? Look at other countries that have made progress. I mean, in the last 30 years, a system that does not prioritize knowledge, does not prioritize integrity, how can you compete? So how can we survive as a nation? How can we thrive as a nation? Look at other countries that have made progress. I mean, in the last 30 years, or even in the last decade, if you look at the countries that have made progress, they are countries that have gotten these things right because they are basic, they are fundamental to any polity. Any polity that does not prioritize knowledge, does not have integrity, does not have institutions that are working and functioning and doing their jobs, is not going to simply survive. And we are already getting there. We are already at some kind of precipice. So because we are struggling. I mean, look at the economy and look at what has happened to this lifting of subsidy. In principle, many of us will accept that this subsidy fraud should stop. But clearly, it has been stopped without any preparation for it. And see how people are suffering. People in this country, in fact, are not bothered about it. They're just trying to see how can they survive the next day. And from now to Christmas, we estimate that most people who are eating into their savings or selling some of their assets to survive would have finished. Or you may have an asset that nobody can even buy. And we are going to face a crisis. Most people who are eating into their savings or selling some of their assets to survive would have finished. Or you may have an asset that nobody can even buy. And we are going to face a crisis of a dimension that we have not seen before. What are the political leaders? What are the politicians, in position of government? What are they to them? Honestly, they have no clue. Those that I've spoken to have no clue. And they don't even see it as a problem. So we are in a very big soup. Oh, yes.
I mean, when we wonder, and the security expert that I've spoken to and said, look, if we're not careful, the manner in which the economic state of the country is going, if the shocks are not being handled properly by the leadership of the country and at the state level, crime rates will rise and our nation...
It has already risen. It has already risen. I mean, if you follow I know not everything gets reported, but certainly the much that we're able to see around us. And look, at even the insecurity has gone high. I mean, the rate at which campuses are being invaded and female students being kidnapped, within the last 1 month, how many times have we had? So definitely things are worsening. And I expect the political leaders to come together and start, but of course, like I said, I can understand why they can't do it, because look at the failure of the institutions. In fact, like I was in being invaded and female students being kidnapped, within the last 1 month, how many times have we had? So definitely things are worsening. And I expect the political leaders to come together and start, but of course, like I said, I can understand why they can't do it, because look at the failure of the institutions. In fact, like I was in a seminar just 2 days ago, and we're discussing some of these issues. And I made the point that the political parties are actually criminal cartels. Basically. Oh, yeah, because a lot of the people have one crime or the other. Look at the leadership of the National Assembly. How many people are being investigated? And they are sitting right on their seat. The investigation has stopped and nobody is saying anything. How can you run a system like this and expect to succeed? You can't.
How do we get out of this? Because it looks like a whole bunch of
we have a way to get out
all
of this.
over.
We have a way to get out of this. The first step is to come back and set criteria for leadership.
I'm just going to say this is the point where he's partly right in my own opinion. Like I said, I'm going to leave it to you how you view the current government and everything else. All I know is that for me, I don't happen to think this is about even one government or the other. It's about the entire system. And until we, the citizens, begin to participate in that process, nothing's going to change. What do I mean by that? Give me one. Yeah. So I just want to just interject. You can see on the screen, I always share this. Please go ahead to www.citizeny.org. You see the English version, and of course, the more recent one is the translation of the Nigerian Constitution into Yoruba. It is available on www.citizenay.org. Let me say that again one more time. www.citizenay.org. There you will see the translation of the Nigerian Constitution into Yoruba. And we need that because our people on ground, they are used to and they speak in their local languages. English for them doesn't mean anything other than the government laws, and because it's in English, they don't understand the steps they can take to hold the people they elect into office to account. By reading this, 14.2a, which states sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. 14.2c then goes on to states the participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. It starts with us. If all of this corruption going on, I am certain about that. If we begin to participate in our governance as mandated by the Constitution, Section 14.2c, the participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. The central provision of this Constitution is that we are sovereigns. As such, we can participate in our governance, hold them to account, and begin to monitor their actions. That is what is going to really rebalance the entire structure if it were to even work. And I highly doubt it would work. That's why I advocate for Yoruba Nation. I'm not saying that to be flippant, but I'm just saying unless we begin to participate in the process and begin to really, question those we elect into office, nothing is going to change whoever is there. That's the point I'm making. I just wanted to just put that in. Now let's go for it and listen to what they were saying here. Okay.
No society takes people just like that. For every post, for every seat you're going to occupy, you must earn it. You must qualify for it. Yes, you can go for election, but you must have those credentials that qualify you for that particular office. So the choice that voters are going to make are choices between competent between competent people. The options that you have are options that are, whichever option you take, at least you have some kind of minimum guarantee. But at the moment, really, there is no criterion for leadership. The criteria that we have in the Constitution is not a criteria, it's a criteria for eligibility. Now, when you come to suitability...
A minimum standard.
That's just eligibility. Yeah. It just makes you eligible. Yeah. But it doesn't make you suitable. And we have no criteria for suitability. And that's the problem.
And I guess that we...
Now, some of these things are not written in the Constitution, but there are norms and there are certain standards that societies keep, which apparently our one has crumbled. Not that we didn't have one.
Our traditional institution at some point, although monarchical in nature, but they are also, like you said, criteria in which you get onto that seat if you don't belong, if you don't have
the monarchy. I know they have what they call, it's like an electoral college. Yeah. The people, the kingmakers, and they do have standards. So you find, for example, if a king dies, and then there are 10 or 20 of his children, they're all eligible, right? By virtue of their system, right? But they are not all suitable. So how do you now take the one that is suitable? You come up with a criteria.
And you look at the United States, for example, they will tell you that some of the presidents in the past have finished from one Ivy League or the other. And you look at Singapore, for example, almost all the members of cabinet have had to go to Harvard School of Governance, and and you see the level, the effort being made to increase knowledge so that they can impact to the society.
And Shewin, this is precisely why they are making progress, right? Now, there are no two ways about it. You leave this system of merit, you run into the kind of ditch that we are in today, We are not able to solve any of our problems.
Teach.
Every Nigerian problem, that you see every day, it gets worsened.
But those who have hope in Bola Tinubu, for example, let's speak to specifics now. Those who have hope in Bola Tinubu, who went to the ballot to vote for him, in your own view, the early stage policies and decisions that he has made, how disappointed or how hopeful are you in Bola Tinubu?
Well, as you know, I have worked with him. I was in the AC and ACN. So I have the privilege of having to work with him. And I'm honestly disappointed because I expected. He's a person who I know he would always have a book around him reading. He would always, you would be able to engage him. But all that magic has evaporated. I don't see it.
You think he has been demystified
I don't know.
by the federal and the national level task?
I don't know. We are still in the process. But certainly that magic, that idea of a person who can solve problems is not there. Because look at the bundle of problems that are there.
You thought that Tinubu's name is synonymous to fixing Nigeria's problems at the initial stage?
No, I didn't think that he was synonymous, but I knew that he had talents that you could apply to solve, problems. Certainly. I mean, but I don't
find in the last months?
I don't find them.
Well, look at the appointments that he has made. And there has been a few reversal, withdrawal. What do you make of those kind of situations?
Well, first, I think the appointment system seems to be in crisis. Because, I have worked in the presidency for 4 years, and appointments were made, and we know the processes that we go through. You never get to that point. You have to do thorough due diligence. You have to weigh and you have to consult the stakeholders. So by the time it gets to the table of the president, with all the options you have given him, whoever the president chooses, you'll find that he fits in and, he will be accepted. Because you would have done the consultations, you would have done the due diligence. But this kind of ad hoc system, it doesn't even look like the president knows when the appointments are being made. It's like he wakes up and then he suddenly discovers that such and such and
How
such.
embarrassing is
I don't
this?
know. It's terrible. We're doing this in front of the whole world.
The presidency has a proper government structure, isn't it?
We are doing all this.
It's a parastatal on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, we are doing this in front of the world. And what is the world going to think of us? We are doing all this.
It's a parastatal on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, we are doing this in front of the world. And what is the world going to think of us? We are tumbling and fumbling. We don't know our left from our right. We don't seem to know who is supposed to do what. There's no system there.
What do you think could be happening? Could this be politics?
One thing I can say is that he seems to be consistent in his assessment. I think a year ago, under Buhari government, he said the same thing, that the government wasn't going in the right direction. And I think it's the same thing here. That's all I can pick up from that. I think, what is your view? Now it's about just really hearing what people are saying rather than projecting what I want. I think our role is to try and listen to what is being said and be objective about it. But one thing I am clear about is that the structure that we have in place here requires our active participation as citizens in our own governance. That's why I'm an advocate for people knowing the constitution in our local languages. I've done a lot of work on that. You can hear me talk about that. You can download the Nigerian constitution in Yoruba on Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power, on the website www.citizenay.org. On there you will see Wilfie 1999 near the Yoruba. You will see it on there. You can read through it there, even download it if you wish. We are working on that because we know that the missing ingredient here is the active participation of the people consistently on a daily basis in their governance. That's my take. That's as far as I'm prepared to go. But let's listen to the comments of the historian, Usman Gudaje. Let's have a listen.
Or could it be bad administration going on in the presidency?
I would say it's sheer incompetence.
Whoa.
They have gotten people who have no idea of the job they are supposed to be doing.
Share
And this is why they are,
incompetence.
they are embarrassing the government, embarrassing the country, and because if they knew, the first thing is that if you have an appointment to make, you go through a certain processes. Fair enough, you have people who have worked for you politically and who you want to reward. For as long as they are qualified and they're able to do this job, that's fair for me. Of course, you have to also be careful because, I mean, one thing you would never want to do if you are in government is exclusion. The moment people realize that you are taking or you are only making preference of people who come from a particular section of the country, then you have created for yourself a huge problem. Because then you lose trust, from the people. Then you are perceived as a chauvinist, not as a national leader.
Okay.
And then nobody trusts what you say, and nobody can actually come along. But worst of it is that people who feel excluded are going to fight back.
Let me ask you. The Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation coordinates some of these appointments. And the presidency is supposed to have a handshake when there's an approver. The SGF office and all other relevant offices are supposed to have an handshake to do the diligence. Security agencies are supposed to do that.
The only thing I will say on that point is this. I'm not so sure if the historian Usman Gudaje posed the same question under the Buhari regime. That's all I will say. He's of course making a valid point to a certain extent, but I'm just saying that I'd like to check. Did he make a statement like that? It's just a bit of context on things, but really, I think there are valid reasons to state what is stated, but I just want to make sure that we, to see in the rounds to get a clearer picture, as it were. But anyway, be that as it may, there might be some justification for what he's saying. I can't speak either way or the other, but what are your thoughts? We're just trying to go through what is going on. And what is your view on the state of the nation as it is currently? That's important. Do participate in this discussion. It's very, very important. And of course, as ever, we tell you or go, we suggest to you, or please go and download the Nigerian Constitution, particularly all Yorubas. Right now on www.citizenware.org, we have the Constitution in Yoruba language. We're still being translated up to section 53. We'll be building, adding more to it, and we will reviewing it, making it more, making sure that we, the people, we can participate in our governance through understanding our role within the Constitution as mandated under the 1999 Constitution. It's not perfect, but we can use it to really begin to hold our governance to account. And that is, for me, is an area we all must participate in. But let's listen to what he's saying here.
The FERMA, the young man that was appointed as the chairman of the board of FERMA, that's a federal road maintenance agency, said to have finished his youth service last year. He was an assistant to Dave Umahi, the Minister of Works, a few months ago. A bright young man who finished from Brighton and all of the school in the UK, but only finished youth service, and was appointed a few days ago to head FERMA. Now his appointment has been withdrawn. There are a lot of people who have raised their fears about appointing such a young person because of his experience as a chair of a board. What do you think could have happened? Is it possible that the president doesn't know who he was appointing?
Let us be fair to the young man. This is a Nigerian, a young man. From what I hear, a bright young man. So really, he has no fault in this matter, in the sense that if he's being asked to do something, that's okay. But the system should have been able to know this kind of job. Who are those that, or what are the kind of qualifications that are required for this job, right? And it is this kind of criteria that will determine or guide those who are going to be, selected for that particular responsibility. So I can see clearly things have gone wrong. You were talking about the coordination and the synergy between the Office of the Secretary to Government, the Office of the Security, and all the rest of it, it looks like from the time of the last government, I remember a very senior, an MD of a big parastatal, was removed just like that on the radio. And I called him. I heard this. Is it true? He said he also heard it. So I called the Secretary of Government then. I said, Secretary, I've just heard this. For what I know is that you were the one who signed his letter of appointment. So did you, he said he also heard it on the news. He never wrote any letter to him, the Secretary to the Government at that time. So it looks to me that the current president has inherited the terrible system and he's not improving on it. And this is why everything seems to be going down the drain.
If you are the president and this kind of thing is happening, Dr. Gudaje, who would you hold responsible?
Let me tell you first, if I was the president, this thing will not even happen, Sheun. It will not even happen. If it should, anybody who is involved will be fired away.
But who should be your go-to man? Now, who should be your gatekeeper
this
in that sense?
As far as I know, if they not change the system, is the Secretary to the Government. But the Secretary to the Government may not even know. He may not even know. So, because I gave you an example of what happened. I called the Secretary of the Government then, and he said he has no idea. I even called the Chief of Staff at that time. And I said, Chief of Staff, he said, oh, yes, he heard about it. So you mean you were not part of it? He said, no, I was not part of it.
So is the concept of cabalism?
Well, there are people around the president. I mean, we saw it in the last regime, and it looks like it's a continuum, which is a very sad and tragic thing, that, this thing called a few people, and, without the knowledge of the officers that are responsible, will connive and collect money and do all manners of things and then start appointing people or giving them letters. There was somebody in the last government who got one appointment from one particular, he got one appointment letter and he got another letter sacking him. Of course, he dropped the one that sacked him and took the appointment. And then later on, the other person, it's all very messy. And this is the problem of incompetence. If you do not prioritize knowledge and integrity in your appointment, that is exactly what you're going to get.
This
country will continue to suffer because all institutions will decay, they will not do their jobs, and of course, our image, even within the country,
If you were the president, and I ask again, this kind of flip-flop, who should be losing their job today?
Well, whoever is involved, I don't know.
The question is, if I'm I'm working closely with you,
anybody
if I'm your right-hand man, because before the president makes an approval, there should be someone who checks before the president gets
Precisely,
the letter.
that's what I told you.
So the question is, in fact, who should be the president right-hand man?
The checks are at about 3 levels when I was in the presidency. I mean, usually the special advisors, this is part of their job. Now, when they do that, then it goes through the system. That is, the security will do their checks, the Secretary to the Government will do his check, and they depend upon who you are appointing. Sometimes the head of service also do his check, if he has any record of the head of service. If he has been through...
Just to remind you all, please don't forget, go ahead and subscribe to Citizen Ewa on YouTube. Help us grow the platform. You are, of course, watching Citizen Ewa, the platform where we speak truth to power. We are trying to be very, very impartial in our discussions and deliberations on this platform. Give you the facts as they see it, and allow the interviewees to answer questions posed, without necessarily us sort of projecting on that. We want you to be able to have an informed judgment yourself and listen from your own point of view, and be able to be part of the process and contribute by leaving comments. We really, truly encourage interaction from our supporters, for supporters of Citizen Ewa, the platform where we speak to the power. So please go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification button, and of course give us thumbs up. Thank you so very much. Let's proceed.
The service, and he's being given a political appointment. So all those that are involved must do their check, and then they come back. And you now consult the political stakeholders, either people from the party, from that particular zone, or from that particular state. You have to clear with them. Because maybe he has some issues, with them. You wouldn't want until after the appointment that they do a delegation, they come and complain. That it means that you are going to be entertaining complaints every now and then.
Dr. Gudaje, because you will see as though there's a knee-jerk approach in all of these, instances, and it happened too many times. You see the appointment of the EFCC chairman. Those who have criticized to say, look, this man does not meet the basic fundamental requirement of the law, the Establishment Act, of the cognate experience that is needed for him to have been either a requirement of the law, the Establishment Act, of the cognate experience that is needed for him to have been either a police officer or to have been trained as an investigator. In fact, on the inside in the FCC, there are those who are aggrieved to say he doesn't have that experience yet as an administrator, as a lawyer, 22 years of experience. That came. So when he was appointed, there was a subsisting man from the same region of the country heading the ICPC. It took a Femi Falana who criticized it on Channels television. The presidency afterward had to remove. And there has been cases over and over again like that people would have to point out. Ministers who appeared for screening, they've been asked to turn them back because the presidency at the last minute had withdrawn their nominations. This kind of situation, is the president able to salvage this situation quickly?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. He would be the one to answer. But I can tell you one thing. Clearly, what we have seen are evidence of the fact that the president is not in charge. Someone else is in charge. Now, it's for him to figure out if he wants to really be in charge. How can a name get to the point of getting to the National Assembly for clearance? That's the final stage. And then you don't even know. Anybody who would have been involved with this should leave.
And NDDC, for example, another name was presented, another name was admitted.
Yeah, and when you spoke
ministers
about
when you spoke about
the EFCC, one of the things that I find very interesting, which is very popular now, is that look at the last EFCC chairman. He's in detention, and he may well be there properly. I don't know. I don't have the details, but all the people who he was investigating are the ones who are taking the, big seats at the moment. Isn't that itself a tragedy? Are we not embarrassed as a nation that such a thing is happening? This government doesn't seem to have any sense of shame, I'm afraid to say so. You will feel ashamed to get certain things done. And then clearly there is an element of contempt for citizens. You just do things the way you want, how you want, irrespective of the rules and regulations are there.
On the issue of the citizens, this is the bit I want to keep reiterating over and over, time after time. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. You are a sovereign. You need to. The missing part of governance is our active participation as sovereigns. 14.2c states as much. The participation by the people in their governance shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. That is what must happen. Our participation will put our politicians in check. We need to know the constitution in English, most importantly in our local languages. I've done that work. I'm promoting it on here again. Go to www.citizenwide.org. Click on Iweofin 1999 near the Yoruba. You will see it. Scroll down and click on that, and you can see it in Yoruba. You can begin to use that in your communities. We require it. Without our active participation, the governance will not do its role well because they are not being held to account. We must begin to hold them to account collectively as citizens, as sovereigns. We are sovereigns as a state. So that's where I wanted to just put this information and insert in that section. Let's go ahead.
Are you not running a democracy? Have you not sworn to uphold the Constitution? Isn't the Constitution, there to guide, all of us?
See,
is there anybody who is above the Constitution?
I just talked about the Constitution, and we need to use that Please, this is not a way to sort of just making excuses. I'm telling you now, whoever you put there, even Peter Obi, Atiku, none of this will work unless we become active participants on a daily basis in our governance, holding those we elect to account on a daily basis collectively. Town hall meetings now is a must, where we read section 14.2a to each and every member, like a politician. We remind them. We say it in our local languages, or in English, as the case may be, but our people must know it. That community must know that they possess the powers of sovereignty, which I stated. We remind those who are sitting down. We call a town hall meeting. And that at that town hall meeting, you now say sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. And then you now add, unquote, quote and unquote. Now you now add, for 24 years, we the citizens have not been made aware that we have these powers. Now we have it. We are going to be using those powers because we are the sovereigns. And when we tell you, we are telling you this, we are going to be reminding you on a monthly basis that you are there to serve the citizens, and we the citizens are indeed the sovereigns from whom you derive the power and authority of governance. So that's what we need to do as a collective. That I firmly am certain that is for me, that will be a game changer if we can achieve that. Something else I'd like to add. Somebody has asked about getting copies of the Yoruba constitution in paper form. We are working on that currently. It's not currently available. Don't forget, we are still updating and making the Yoruba version, as clearer and making sense in Yoruba. So that will take some time, but we do have it in the pipeline to ensure that we have the Yoruba constitution, the 1999 constitution in Yoruba, in paper or in book form, so that people can be able to use it in their local languages, to be able to know their laws and the powers of sovereignty and how to use those powers, and ultimately to hold their governance to account. Let's go forward.
Constitution. So this reckless kind of behavior suggests that there is contempt. They don't see anything, and this is partly, I think, because of the way we practice our politics. It's cash and carry. People pay. And because they pay, they have a sense of entitlement, and that's it. So if we really want to have a country, we have to get out of this mess.
Such scenarios, but I mean, one thing is paramount here. We want a better Nigeria. I mean, if things are going wrong, we have a hope that it can get better. Anybody who is saddled with the responsibility to get things done should get their act together. Let's take a breather, Dr. Usman Gudaje.
Thank you.
When we return, more conversation about the state of the nation, the early days of President Bola Tinubu. How is it performing? Some of the policies, how are they affecting you and your livelihood as a citizen of Nigeria? Our conversation with the elder statesman, Dr. Usman Gudaje, a scholar, a former member of the National Assembly, will continue right after now. Join us again.
So, just one sec. We're just gonna 1 sec. Okay, here we go.
Indeed, for your time.
My pleasure.
I'd like to take you back to
Dr.
the contestation
Usman,
for the office of the president, which is gone to court now, and I'd like you to give us a sense of your own view of the outcome of that election. However intense it looked, it was one thing that we go into our history books as one election that caught some people as a surprise, one election that defied some odds, and for a lot of people, historic in several sense. And for you, the outcome of that election and the contestation that we have seen afterward, how much of impact do you think the consequences that it has had on our polity?
Shaun, this is a big issue, and this is an issue which we can discuss for over an hour. For me, it is the very fundamentals of the election. If you look at the delegates, the primaries, money was being exchanged freely and openly.
Again, I urge our citizens, we need to participate in our governance. Without our participation, those the politicians will continue to try and exploit, knowing fully well that they will not be held accountable. So our participation, active participation as sovereign, is a must. It will put a stop to corruption, whichever party is in power. Without our participation, whichever party is in power will do exactly the same thing that the current one is doing in many people's eyes. Nothing will change. It requires our active participation using the powers that I'm going to show you on the screen once again. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. And then how you use those powers, section 14.2c. The participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. So we, the people, will ensure that those who are in office, we hold them to account because we have the powers of sovereignty as written under section 14.2a, and that gives us the right to participate in our governance. Let's proceed.
We were all hoping that the EFCC, the ICPC, the SSS would be in those particular embedded within to arrest people who were using money. They didn't. We didn't see them. If they were there, I don't know what stopped them from taking. And that for me was the beginning of the problem. Because if the whole edifice of election, because primary election is a major, if you like, it's a major component of the general election. So if it becomes cash and carry at that level, then you know the kind of people you are going to end up with. And look at the amount of money that was now, and I'm not talking about just the APC, I'm talking about here across board, right? I mean, almost all the parties. There must be one or two where things are maybe, but for the majority of the parties that I know, and I participated, and I know that money was used. Now, for me, honestly, that is something that is so fundamentally wrong with our elections, and which will continue to haunt our political system if we do not address it. And I know people find this uncomfortable, and they don't even want to discuss it, but that's the beginning of the problem. And if we cannot go back to those roots and address them, now you come to the general election itself. I mean, we have...
I would just like to insert here that we, the citizens, must play our active role as citizens to hold our governors to account. We have that power, and we need to begin to use those powers. And you've heard me say it, I'll say it again. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. That is the power we have to teach to our local, and in all our local, 704 local government areas, in our indigenous languages. It is a must. Over 20 million children are out of school, and they don't speak English. We need to be able to pass the message about our constitutional rights to our people in our local languages. That it must be of high priority. We've begun that process with Yoruba, translation of the Nigerian Constitution in 1999 Constitution into Yoruba for people in all 8 local government areas of on Yoruba land, in land, to be able to know their powers in their language and be able to critically, most importantly, exercise those powers. Let's go ahead. Thank you.
Participated. My own election, I mean, I went to my own ward, the Gudaje ward, and in Katsina State, and I saw what I saw. And I saw people brazenly sharing spaghetti, clothes, soaps, and so many other things. And there were people who were maybe not as open as they were sharing these things openly, and the police were there. Of course, there was only one single policeman. And I was actually shocked, and I asked him, I said, okay, so you are alone, what can you do? So really, I mean, our elections are really in shambles. And they cannot but produce shambles because garbage in, garbage out. And therefore, all the things that we are complaining about, that our economy is not picking up, is going down the drain, insecurity is not improving, it is worsening. When you talk about jobs, even those with jobs now, because of the economy, they cannot even feed themselves, they cannot feed their family, they cannot go to hospital, they cannot pay school fees. Even those who are working in bank, because of the escalation of an inflation. So everything about us is not working. Everybody who lives in this country knows, even those who are in government, knows that Nigeria is not working. And yet they are sitting there comfortably, quite happy with themselves, sharing the national resources and not caring about what some of us are saying. I'm sure somebody is watching and dismissing as maybe, oh, look at these people saying this kind of thing. But these are the issues that politicians or the whole country should be addressing. If we don't fix this, it's the country that's going to crumble, Sean.
Well, you can see, now you see why we say we advocate for self-determination for Yoruba people. But to do that, we have to participate in the process, in any case. For me, the participation means knowing our constitution in our local languages. Market women, farmers, buka owners, hairdressers, vulcanizers, youths, everybody need to know that constitution in our local language, and critically, how to exercise the powers within our sovereigns to hold our elected officials to account, because that is our collective role as citizens slash sovereigns. We are the sovereigns. That is a point that I am very, very insistent upon. 1 second, please. We're just going to go quickly to the section of the Constitution that is on Citizen AY. You can see on the screen here, if I just bring it down, you see there I've got the www.citizenay.org. So when I now click on that, it comes up, and then you simply go, scroll downwards. You scroll down, you see the song, and it says here, I want to just so you can see it. You click on that sign that says Iweofin 1999 near De Yoruba. You click on that. Once you click on that, let's just show you. It will take you into the Yoruba version. And here you will see it says Itumo Iweofin 1999 CAD Yoruba. So the translation of the 1999 Constitution into Yoruba language. Then you can scroll down and then you can read it in Yoruba. And we need to do this. We need to empower people, knowing their power, their constitutional rights in their language. That is a huge task that must be done. We're again asking the federal government to take that task on and print it out and make it available, just like we've done, on their website for people to understand their constitution in their local languages. Because they're not doing that, it is actually harming the people and preventing the people from being able to hold those they elect into office to account. It is not about just voting alone. This is about people expressing and participating in the governance on a daily basis as sovereigns, as mandated under the 1999 Constitution, Section 14(2)(a). Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government produces constitution, general powers and authority. And of course, 14(2)(c), the participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. So I just wanted to just show you that. So just go down to www.citizenay.org and you can have this version in Yoruba. Well, of course, we have the English one, but the indigenous people must have it in their language so they can actively participate in their governance. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Please leave comments. What are your thoughts on what I see? What you see so far? The state of the nation in Nigeria. How do you view it? These are questions we should be asking ourselves.
It's not going to stay. There is no sustainability in the mess that we are in now.
You look at an Atiku Abubakar, for example, and a Bola Tinubu in their own right, heavyweights. And there comes a Peter Obi, who came in the third leg as, not someone who is too far away from the system, as a lot of people will think, but he became a phenomenon in that election. What do you think of a Peter Obi that culminated in a movement called the Obedient Movement? What do you make of that?
For me, Peter represents the quest for change. People were tired of APC. were tired of PDP. They were looking for change, especially the young people. So it could have been Peter, it could have been anybody who had the courage to chart a different course.
So it wasn't about Peter Obi?
It's not so much about Peter, like the fact that people are, completely disenchanted with the two big parties that have literally destroyed this country. Because PDP cannot extricate itself from blame. I mean, it has ruled for this number of 16 years. And therefore, they are all part of those political parties that have actually destroyed this country. So therefore, young people who are looking for change saw in Peter some hope that things can be done differently. And he was speaking to them in the language that they can connect. He was talking about their future. He was talking about jobs. He was talking about things. So whatever else is there, I think it is the fact that people are looking for alternatives. And I can tell you, when you discuss with people, they are disgusted with the politics completely. They're looking for something else. Yeah, because it's not delivering.
That's something else that people are looking for. I hazard a guess to say is to understand their constitution and how to use it. They don't even know they have the powers of sovereignty and how to use those powers. And they know something is wrong, but they can't put their hands on it. I beg to suggest that there's something that is wrong, and the missing jigsaw is the people knowing the powers of sovereignty as stated under Section 14(2)(c) and critically how to use it. And of course, again, as you've seen, we've translated the constitution into Yoruba so that the people could make use of it, such as you are seeing on the screen, So that can be used. I'm just quickly running through it. You can, you can see that it's lengthy. We're still doing some updates on it, but we're hoping to make the book format available at some point, but it's not available just yet. But you can download this right now, or you can go into the www.citizenera.org and have a look at it, and it will always be there. Again, we of course encourage the federal government. They should be the ones who are doing this to make it easier for the citizens to know their rights, them to know that they're sovereigns and they can hold their governors to account. Everything has been done by successive governments to ensure that people do not know that they possess powers of sovereignty. That is a plain fact, and that must change. Okay, so let's go forward.
Shown 25 years, poverty has more than tripled. Insecurity has escalated to levels that are inconceivable. Jobs are not there. Education has crumbled. Everything that, people cannot even survive. And the politicians are getting fat and buying new jeeps and building new houses. For goodness sake, are we fools?
The members of the House
of this country have got every reason to.
The House of Reps members are angry about the agitation against the move to purchase vehicles for their jobs, and there are those who will say it's legitimate for them to have tools of trade, of the tools.
Nobody's saying it shouldn't be legitimate. The best thing they could do is be using local cars to create jobs. It is that simple, and that goes for anybody in the political field, all of them. But most importantly, unless we begin to participate, as stated earlier on, as citizens, they will continue to try and get away with all manner of injustices against the people to whom sovereignty belongs. That's you and I. And we need to awaken our people, let them know they have rights and they can hold their governance to account using the powers of sovereignty. They have that right. We need to encourage them, our people, to use it in our local languages. Call them. There must be monthly town hall meetings where all of these politicians will sit down and be reminded. They'll be reminded every meeting that the sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives its powers and authority, and we do not want them to forget it. When we now ask questions about the development, infrastructure, the roads, the schools, they cannot fob us off. They have to answer questions because we are the sovereigns, and they derive their powers of governance from the people. That is really important that we state there. Let's go ahead.
For them to do their jobs. But those who will say, well, you might need the tools
I
for their job.
spent 4 years in the National Assembly. I had one vehicle.
Well,
and I did my job.
It seems to be one vehicle per each person. But the argument for some people is the cost of these vehicles.
Yeah,
the National Assembly, at some quarters, we were hearing that it's actually not 130 million, it's 119 million. Some people will say it is 90 million. Nigerians are saying, even if it's 50 million.
Even if it is 30 million, why do we have to do that?
Do they have to buy vehicles?
Look at the suffering of the ordinary people who they ostensibly said, elected them. And isn't that the priority?
I will say, though, Dr. Usman Gudaje is also part of it because he alludes to the fact that he was part of APC. So there's a continuum here. But like I said, in the end, it is going to be about the active participation of the people collectively in their governance in all 704 local government areas that will put a stop to the barefaced looting and corruption carried out by the politicians. They know there is no consequences for their actions because the people are not holding them to account. We are trying to change that mindset by encouraging people to know the constitution in the local languages. The market women, the farmers, the security person protecting the farmers and everybody else, the booker owner, the vulcanizer, the hairdresser, the market seller, all of them need to know their powers of sovereignty as stated in the constitution critically in their local languages. Let's proceed.
I had a commissioner, and this came in a BBC interview, who went around to do a check on the education. What he found was that there were 500 schools, primary schools, that he has gone around physically to see where there's only one teacher. Only one teacher. Go to the hospitals. I mean, these people have no conscience.
If it were to be 100 million per vehicle, Nigeria would have spent
Our
36
economy
billion.
cannot afford this at the
36
point in
billion
time.
to purchase the vehicle.
How much was ASU requesting? I mean, these people have no sensitivity at all. They don't take the voters for nothing because they paid, or they think they paid everybody.
There are those even in the Labour Party who are now criticizing members who represent it. And I've seen a few of the obedient movement leaders who have said, look, those of you that are of the Labour Party, we thought we were going to make a change and oppose these kind of measures and these kind of policies.
They have dissolved and followed, the suit. But I have an issue with the Labour Party itself. I mean, not the Labour Party, the Labour movement. I mean, maybe another day. But sadly, they are not, they are not. Remember, yes, Labour is a very important civil society, and they should be pushing for policies and changes. But in these last few years, I'm really not, last few weeks, I'm really not impressed.
What I will say about that, again, in the end, now the most important critical factor that is missing is our collective active participation in our governance. And the people cannot participate if they don't know the powers they possess in the Constitution. For them to know it, it has to be in their local languages. That is why we are advocating for that. We are putting that forward for Yoruba people in all 8 states now. They have a document that they can use to read the Constitution, the key areas in terms of their responsibilities, in terms of their rights, in terms of how they can hold their governance to account. It is on there on www.citizenny.org, and we can begin to deepen the knowledge about our rights in our community. The lack of knowledge of those is being used by the politicians to exploit and to loot and carry out corruption. But once the citizens begin to participate in it, actively using the powers of sovereignty and holding their governance to account, it will mean those in government will not have avenue in which they can carry out corruption and get away with it, because the people will participate. They will hold them to account. They will ensure that justice is carried out. They will ensure that appointees have to have met certain criteria, from judges and everybody else downwards. And those who carry out those appointments will be answerable to the citizens. That's why I call for a monthly meeting in the local areas with our people knowing the Constitution in their local languages. This is of immense importance that happens. Let's go forward. Thank you.
I mean, they ought to be speaking in terms of what exactly is wrong, not just for the purpose of just simply raising salaries. In fact, economically, even if you raise salaries, you just create inflation. There are fundamental things that they should be actually fighting for.
So is it more of the lawmakers buying vehicles or patronizing locally made vehicles or buying vehicles at all? I mean, don't they need to buy vehicles to do their jobs?
I think the issue is not vehicles. The issue is we are running a system that is based on rent seeking. People are not prepared to make the sacrifices that leadership is known for. Anybody who is in politics today.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this in all parts of the country we know as Nigeria, the missing ingredient remains our active participation collectively as citizens in our own government, as sovereigns, critically as sovereigns in our government. Sovereignty belongs to you and I. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. We are the sovereigns. And the powers we possess, we have the power to question our government. The participation by the people in the governance shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. With those powers of participation, we can question those in government from president downwards, and we must begin to do so. Town hall meetings are essential every month. We're running courses on that on Citizen AY. We put a course together that we want people to join us and be able to learn how we can use that, and we can teach every community to begin to take that on, because without our active participation, those people will only skew the benefits of our resources in our land to benefit those politicians. They will continue, and they will ensure that they don't end up in jail. They haven't. That's the reality. So our participation now is the only panacea for all manner of ills, corruption, disregard, contempt for the citizens, and oppression of the citizens by the government. The panacea remains our collective participation. Please go down to www.citizenay.org and please click on Iwe-ofin 1999 Niede Yoruba for Yoruba-speaking people. In all the 8 local states, we need our people to begin to know the powers that they possess in the Constitution and be able how to use it, starting from our villages into our hamlets, into small towns, into cities. That must happen consistently. Our consistent daily active participation. Let us proceed.
Or is holding position who does not prioritize the problems of his own constituency, I don't think he deserves to be in that seat. I don't think he deserves to represent them.
But this is why I keep saying monthly town hall meetings. We will train as many citizens, as many sovereigns in all 74 local government areas. We will put a course together and we will talk you through how you can collectively build your own community base where you as sovereigns can call your local government chairman, state house of assembly, house of reps, senators, call them to meetings. And they must turn up because why? You are a sovereign and they cannot ignore you. And they must provide answers because why? You are a sovereign. And begin to exercise that power and start teaching our children from 4 years old about their constitutional powers and their rights and the ability to question those in governance. We need to teach this. This is about the total mindset change that we're talking about. It goes deeper than just saying, oh, the people in government must do the right thing. It is we, the people, holding them to account that will ensure that anybody coming into government will know they have to do the right thing or they will be questioned. You see, that's a different mindset we're looking at right now. Let's go forward.
I mean, you are in Abuja today, and I'm not sure if you drive around so much, but I've seen quite a lot, and it's alarming. Probably the second time I'll be mentioning this in a week. And I think perhaps the sensitivity that you have mentioned about those who govern, and I'm not sure these are even some of the people in the IS office. I see sometimes 10 vehicles in a convoy, and it's become a practice. And if you live around areas where government officials leave, you
Asokoro.
hear sirens almost every
Metama.
time. It's just in our backyard here. You hear the sirens virtually every moment. Should every official of government blow siren around, blow the siren around time? How much of a vehicle, how much vehicle could they have in their convoy? Cost of governance. What do we need to do about this political culture?
These people seem to be in entirely a different world. You can't even engage them. What we're talking about here hardly makes any sense to them. Because what brought them into politics essentially is to make money and to acquire plots of land and build and do all the things that, basically this is the motivation. I concede that there must be one or two that are different, but they are immaterial, they are inconsequential in a system where the political culture is basically about what can I get out of the system, not what can I contribute to the.
Again, I will reiterate it, and I want us all to please take note. We must begin to teach from 4 years old, just like they've taught people about the religions of Islam and Christianity, using, interestingly, those religions. They've translated those religions into our local languages. Why is it that our own constitution, for 24 years, the politicians refuse point blank to translate the constitution into our local languages? Because they know if they do that, their hands will be tied. They will not be able to continue the exploitation. Well, we've begun that process. You've seen it on here. Don't just take it as hearsay, or I'm just talking, I'm just making it is there. That is the Yoruba version of the constitution that you're seeing on the screen. And that is what we're doing. We want our people to be aware of their power, their rights as sovereigns, to hold their governors to account in their language, so they can begin to exercise those powers in all 704 local government areas. So that is what must happen. We cannot keep praying and wasting time and thinking by doing the same thing we'll get a different result. This is what must happen. Please join in the struggle. You are watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. As we say in this, if this resonates with you, go ahead, subscribe to Citizen AY, subscribe, hit notification button, give us thumbs up, help us reach more people, help us carry this message through. We are not here talking about problems. We're not interested in the problems. We know what the problems are. We are telling you the solutions, and one of the central solutions is the active participation of the people in their local languages, connecting and speaking directly to the elected officials so that they have nowhere else to hide. Please join us in this struggle. We are committed to this, and we need to change the future of the coming generation through active participation in our governance and holding our governors to account as mandated under the Constitution of Nigeria. Critically, it must be done in our local languages. 20 million children are out of school. They can learn about the Constitution in their local language, in their mother tongue. And that is of immense benefit. We need to change the dynamics and our mindset. Let's proceed.
System.
Where do we go from here, Dr. Gudaje? We must have a solution.
See, I've not had that bit of it, but I've just talked to you about the particular solution. And the solution is simple. Translate the Constitution to our local languages. Ensure a rollout program. Make sure that every community is beginning to read and they know the powers of the Constitution, the powers as sovereigns within the Constitution, and begin to hold those they elect into office to account. No ifs and no buts. The Bible will not cut it. The Quran will not cut it. The active participation using the powers within the Constitution is the solution, and it will put a stop to corruption. Believe you me. Let us go forward.
Must be a solution.
One, I have said it either here or some other places. One, we first need to craft an elite consensus.
That may have a role. I'm not going to rule it out, but it starts with in our community from 4 years old. If you can be taught about the Bible and the Quran from age of 4, you can be taught about the Constitution that's going to impact your life from the age of 4. That is what we must advocate for. Particularly, critically, it must be in our local languages. That is what we must do. Let's go forward.
In this country, We must find a way of building a consensus as to where do we want our country to be in the next.
Who will convene this kind of elite consensus arrangement?
The civil society. The civil society.
What will it entail?
It will entail getting organized labor, getting the academic,
You see, all of that, we are complicating matters. That is, you see, the foundation has to be the people knowing their rights from the age of 4. Without that, all of the civil society and everything else, there is nothing to build on. You have to have that foundation of the knowledge I'm going to show you on the screen. And I will keep reiterating that point in our local languages as well. You can see that the sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through the constitution, derives its powers and authority. And of course, Section 14.2c, the participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. I know this off head, and I want you to know it, particularly in your local languages. I'm going to quickly say it in Yoruba. Ìjọba jẹ́ ti àwọn èèyàn Nàìjíríà láti ọ̀dọ̀ ní tìjọba nípasẹ̀ òfin orílẹ̀-èdè nígbà gbogbo agbára àti àṣẹ rẹ̀. That is the same thing of 14.2a in Yoruba. 14.2c says, ìkópa àwọn èèyàn níjọba wọn gbọ́dọ̀ rí dájú ní ìbámu pẹ̀lú àwọn òfin orílẹ̀-èdè. Again, that's 14.2c in our local language. That's a language that our market women will understand, our farmers will understand, our young vulcanizers, booker owners, all businesses that do not speak English. English is not a sign of intelligence. We need our people to begin to engage their governance in their local languages, because they know how to hold people to account once they know the sovereign, that they're sovereigns. And we need to help with that process. We are calling on the government to translate all the constitution into our local languages. We have begun the process on Citizen World, the platform where we speak truth to power. We've begun the process by doing it into translating the Nigerian constitution into Yoruba, and you can see it across the screen. This is not here talking. We're not just talking. We are talking about solutions. We're not talking about problems. We're talking about how we can solve it. And this one solution can solve multitude of problems. Healthcare, roads, school, everything else. The funds that's coming to your local community, you can question those you elect into office, because Section 14.2a and 14.2c gives you those powers to hold them to account, and they are mandated to answer you. You can call town hall meetings. That is the solution to the problem that we face. Let's build that foundation collectively together. We can collectively do this if we work together. You're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power, and we're spending time. It is past midnight here, 1:15. I'm doing this not because of myself. I'm doing it for our community. I'm doing this. I focus on this because I'm thinking of the next generation and what better future we're going to build for them. A nation blessed with infinite resources, over 40 mineral resources. If it's not going to work, then at least the people must know the powers they possess to go for self-determination. And that is what I want. We need to put the powers that the people possess back in their hands through knowledge of the constitution in the local languages, so they can decide their own future and begin to hold those they elect to office to account. Let's go forward. Thank you. Here we go.
Saying, wait a minute, we are the elite by virtue of the education that we have.
Please, that's what I'm saying. You see, when you talk about education, Professor Sophie Oluwole says, just a kid by a mom giving birth to a child, raising her, to teaching her how to trade from 0 to 6. From at the age of 3, our children are already educated, because if you can speak a language, that is education. Let us not misunderstand. When you're talking about we're going to educate, you're talking about education in terms of going to learn a foreign language. English is not a sign of intelligence. I'm saying again, English is not a sign of intelligence. We need to understand that. We need to use the tools that are presently before us in our local areas. Our language is an old language. It has got meaning, context. It's beautiful language. It's powerful. And you can do sciences. You can do everything in your language. We need to begin to use that. That is the fastest route to developing our own economy. Look at China. They do everything in Chinese. They do everything in Chinese. Why are we having to use a foreign language and people have to go and spend money to send the kids to school to learn a language first before they know their rights? Now, let's start with our language. That's what I firmly believe.
Quiet. And we are supposed to be able to guide or navigate out of the current problems that we have, because there are experts amongst us. Therefore,
Experts in what? We have so many experts. We have so many experts in Nigeria that many of them are going out of the country to serve other countries. What kind of experts are that? Is that any use to us? Doctors, lawyers, everybody else in around the world are taking the best of us out of us. Because why? We are focusing on putting a foreign... We are being prepared to be used in other countries to learn their languages so that when they say, oh, we have a problem, you can come to my country and get a better life. We are denying our own country, our own people, the benefits of knowledge in our language. Our language must be first and foremost in every part of that nation you call Nigeria. I am an advocate for Yoruba nation. I am. And on the evidence of what is being said here tonight, you can see why I am absolutely right in saying that. But we need to start somewhere first. Let us start with making sure that our people know their rights in their local languages. Just like I'm going to show you on the screen again. I will not relent on this advocacy. I will not relent. We will continue. You're seeing the Nigerian constitution in Yoruba. We want to compel our government to make sure that in Yoruba land, the people of Yoruba-speaking people know their rights, know their constitution in their local languages. Not spending time reading the Bible that is of no use to them, or the Quran, when the constitution that they must be using to hold their governors to account is being printed out in English. Of what use is English to someone living in a village when they don't speak English? They need to know what is in that constitution so that when a politician comes to them, they can hold them to account. That's the key difference. Let's go forward.
Should say, okay, where do we want this country to be? We want this country to be in this position? Okay, let's organize ourselves instead of consistently agonize.
Our people, our participation in our governance is central to any development. It must be done. It must be done. The constitution must be translated into our local languages. No ifs and buts. Our people must know their rights in their language. Intelligent English is not a sign of intelligence. It isn't. And we need to break dispel that nonsensical idea.
Let us organize ourselves to confront those in power and to make sure that there are political parties. If we can't get anything done now, in the next election, we should organize ourselves to have the kind of people that we think should be there.
All right.
And this is not going to be impossible. It's just that sometimes people don't have the courage to even start. But I mean, there could be other alternatives, but this is the most democratic alternative that I can think of.
So there are two short questions I'd like you to tackle.
So you see, I'm glad he said there might be other solutions, and I'm glad he said that. And I'm not ruling out what he's saying, but I'm saying that the foundation of the nation must be built on the knowledge of the people, knowing their rights in their local languages, to be able to stand up for those rights. Of what use is you having a constitution written in English, but you are in a village when they're telling you, when the politicians are telling you, oh, they spend the money and they're not being accountable to you because you don't know the rights as you're a sovereign in English. You can't read it. You won't be able to hold the politicians to account. And that is what has happened for 24 years. That constitution being translated into our local languages, such as I've done now, will open the eyes of the village people to their rights as sovereigns, their right to question and hold those they elect to serve them to account. That is the key difference. Let's go forward.
I'm being told I just have about 60 seconds to close. And I imagine that we've been in these roller coaster. I mean, since the Fourth Republic, it looks to me, Obasanjo tried to establish something, and and there we're stumbling. Economy issue, security issue. And
please notice, none of them, in what we've been saying, you have not seen on any broadcast, on any channels, anything mentioning what I am showing you on the screen. Please take note. They are not showing you the power that you need to help your own community to grow and begin to turn things around and begin to hold your politicians to account. They're talking about everything else because they don't want you to have access to that power. We are giving you that power for free. Take advantage of it. We are not here to talk about problems anymore. We are talking about solutions. And the solution is having the constitution in our local languages, making sure that people understand this, that they're sovereigns and how to use those powers to hold those elected into office to account and be able to use it critically in their local languages. And that will transform our economy. Once people know their rights in their local languages and how to go for it, this will come, it will build our economy. And in fact, we need to have keyboards in our local language. The Chinese have Chinese keyboards. Why can't we have Yoruba keyboard? Why can't we have other? Why can't we? Why can't we? We must have that, because we need to use the tools that the mother tongue is a tool of development. The mother tongue is a tool of development, and we need to begin to use it in the appropriate manner. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'm not even going to listen to the rest of the broadcast now. I just want you to really understand that what we're saying. I'm speaking to you in English, but believe you me, I am a passionate Yoruba man, believing in my culture, my tradition, my ways of life, my ancestral greatness as Yoruba people. And look, our language is the key to everything, and it must be central to any development that we aim to achieve. And that language will unlock our people knowing their constitutional rights in the language, will unlock development across the whole of the Yoruba land and other parts, and the Igbos and others as well. We need that to be done. Join me in the struggle. Please go down to www.citizeny.org and please click on Iweofin 1999 ni Ede Yoruba. Click on it. Begin to use that in your own community. Let's start with that, and then we'll do some Zoom and we'll talk you through how you can begin to hold those you elect into office to account. I've given some inklings as to ways in which we can do that, but we're going to go into more specifics. But for now, we're going to stop here. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I know this broadcast has been a long one. I'm going to try and see if I can cut it and chop it up a little bit so that people who haven't got that much data can get little snippets of the actions they need to take. But you can see already, the most important thing is I want you to know in all of this, we now have the constitution translated into Yoruba, and now people on Yoruba in Yoruba land can begin to use that now to explain to local communities the powers that they have as sovereigns and how those powers can be used to hold the elected officials to account. Because right now, those politicians, they are not accountable to the people. And that must change. The only way we'll change is having the constitution in our local languages to begin to hold those they elected to office to account, using the powers within the same constitution in their local languages. I'm going to put a stop to it here. If you haven't subscribed to Citizen AY, please, here's what you need to do. Go ahead. Subscribe to Citizen AY. Hit notification button. Give us thumbs up. Help us reach more people. The time for action is now. We have myriad of problems. The solution is one. Translate this constitution into our local languages, such as I've done. It's already translated. Begin to make use of it in your own community. In all local government areas, this is in Yoruba land. This must be, you are free to use this. I'm not charging a penny for it. I don't need it. I don't need that money. I need to see a better future for the coming generation. I don't want to see 10, 15, 20 million of our youth not being able to stand up and speak for their rights and hold their governors to account. That is why we are translating into the local languages, to stop this religious nonsense that is being used in the learning, for example, because people do not know the powers that they possess as sovereigns within the same constitution. It's time to do the right thing collectively. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. If this resonates with you, please do share. We will come back and talk about this in more detail again on a live broadcast. And Dr. Usman Gudaje, he said what he said. But what I am telling you is that the solution is not about the experts or anybody. No, it's about our people knowing their constitutional rights in their local language. When you know your rights, you can stand up for it. Our people don't know their rights. They don't know their sovereigns. So how can they stand up for it? That is why translating it to our local languages, such as I've done now, you can see on the screen. I've done that. I've done up to section 53 of this constitution. And I'll be doing more, and we're building it. But what I want you to do, Take advantage of this. It's for free. Take advantage of it. Build your own community. You can begin to rebuild your community using the powers that you see within this constitution, because it's in your local language, and it empowers you. We are giving you what will solutions to the problem, not problems alone. Solutions. These are solutions that we are giving you in your local language. It frees your mind, and when you teach this to 4-year-old, by the time they're 16, they know how to stand up for their rights, how to ensure that the government gives them and provides the infrastructure they need, because it is within the constitution. That is what we need to do. And if it doesn't work, they also have the power to go for self-determination via referendum, because they will instruct those politicians to go to the House of Assembly, State and National Assembly, and put in a referendum clause within the constitution, because they are sovereigns. They have that power. These are the kind of things we like to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak to the power. Please don't forget, subscribe, hit the notification button, give us thumbs up. Thank you very much for listening. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. The time is now 1:29 midnight. It's way past midnight, but I'm committed to this, and I'm thinking of the future generation. If this resonates with you and you're watching, please subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube, TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. Help us. Donations. We want to print this book out. Because we've had some demand, some call for this book to be printed out on ground in Nigeria. We would love to do that, and we don't want to charge anything for it. But what is important is actually the government should do this. If they really mean well, if they want a better Nigeria that they're talking about, this book should be translated into our local languages now by our government. And they have the funds to do it, but they don't want to do it because it is a form of control of the minds of the people. And we need to dispel and to break that hold that they have on us. We are the sovereigns, and they must bow to the demands of the people collectively. We need to exercise those powers. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, you're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak to the power. I'll back later on. Thank you, and bye for now. One more thing before I go. You can hear the song in the background. How long we're not going to suffer? It's on Spotify and iTunes. It's by Citizen AY. Please, if you can help by downloading that on iTunes, and Spotify, and pay a few pence. It helps us to be able to do more work in raising awareness in our community, because there's a lot of work that we're doing. We can see we do a lot of research, and we come and try and talk about it. We're focused on seeing a brighter future for the coming generation, but we need your support. So I'm calling on you. The best, even if you can't buy that, just subscribe to Citizen AY. Help us grow this platform, because there's a lot of work to do. We're not here talking about tittle-tattle. We want the people to be able to use their minds to free themselves. We don't want to give you any fish anymore. We want you to learn how to fish and fish for yourselves within your community. I'll stop here for now. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak to the power about later on. Thank you, and bye for now. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, and of course, give a thumbs up. Bye for now.